All right, so understanding schizophrenia, what's going on in the brain of a schizophrenic? Okay, why does this happen? What causes this? Okay, well, we do know that there is abnormal brain structure and activity in the brain of a schizophrenic. Okay, there are too many dopamine receptors to help explain the paranoia and hallucinations, and it's like taking amphetamine overdoses all of the time. Okay, so this again, really important thing to understand. Too much dopamine is one of kind of the neurological, biological causes, okay, of schizophrenia. Okay, poor coordination of neural firing in the frontal lobe impairs judgment and self-control. Okay, and the thalamus fires during hallucinations as if real sensations were being received. Okay, and there is a general shrinking of many brain areas and connections between them. Okay, so the brain of a schizophrenic functions differently than ours does. Okay, and the dopamine overactivity seems to be the thing that kind of is the kickoff of the rest of this. Okay, but all of this other stuff plays a role that allows for the excess of dopamine to happen as well. Okay. Now, are there biological risk factors affecting early development? Okay. Now, some of the biological risk factors that we know of is that schizophrenia is somewhat more likely to develop when one or more of these factors is present. Low birth weight, maternal diabetes, older paternal age, famine, oxygen deprivation during delivery, and maternal virus during mid-pregnancy impairing brain development. So again, these are risk factors. Okay, there is no causation here, and these are just things that we have found a positive correlation when one of these is present with people who have developed schizophrenia later on. Okay, now schizophrenia is more likely to develop in babies born during and after flu epidemics in densely populated areas, a few months after flu season, after mothers had the flu during the second trimester or had antibodies showing viral infections. The lesson is to get flu shots with early fall pregnancies. Okay, now again, we don't really understand why this is, other than there's something about the influenza virus that impairs brain development at this critical period of gestation. Okay, this is still very correlational. Okay, it's not if you get the flu when you're pregnant, your child will be schizophrenic. There just seems to be this positive correlation here with this. Okay. Um, all right, so are there genetic risk factors? If so, we would see more similar schizophrenic risk shared between identical twins and fraternal twins. So if we take a look at this graph, do we? Okay, and the genetic factor seems to be if one twin has schizophrenia, the chance of the other having it are much greater if the twins are identical. Okay, and having adoptive siblings or parents with schizophrenia does not increase the likelihood of developing schizophrenia. Okay, so what we do know is there does seem to be a genetic piece, a genetic risk factor for schizophrenia as well. Okay, now genetic and prenatal causes, even in identical twins, genetics do not fully predict schizophrenia. This could be because of environmental differences. You know, the first difference is the twins are in separate placentas. Okay, so if you take a look at this picture, you can see that one of the two twins has the enlarged ventricle seen in schizophrenia. Okay, so in terms of brain function things, one of the things that we see in a schizophrenic, okay, is this enlarged core ventricle. Okay, so this is a set of twins, okay, and this twin has schizophrenia and this twin does not have schizophrenia, okay, and one of the things that we notice is this twin also has the enlarged brain ventricle, okay. So even if maternal flu during the second trimester doubles the risk of schizophrenia, this means only 2% of these babies develop this disorder, okay, and genetics may differentiate these 2%. Okay, so it might have to be, and notice we're talking all in mights here. This is not cause and effect. Okay, this might be because if you happen to have this genetic cause, the flu might trigger the onset of schizophrenia. Okay, now research shows many genes linked to schizophrenia, but it might take environmental factors to turn on these genes. So, and again, just because you have a genetic risk does not mean that you are going to get schizophrenia. Okay, that you need to have this environmental piece that goes along as well. Okay, now, are there psychological causes? Okay, the social factorial causes. Research does not support the idea that there are social or psychological factors such as parenting alone cause schizophrenia. However, there may be factors such as stress that affects the onset of schizophrenia. And until we find a mechanism of causation, all we may have is a list of factors which correlate with increased risk. Okay, so right now we don't believe that there is any, haven't identified one major psychosocial factor, however, other than stress as kind of a trigger. Now, what are some of the early warning signs? Okay, the social psychological factors which tend to appear before the onset of schizophrenia are early separation from parents, short attention span, disruptive or withdrawn behavior, emotional unpredictability, and poor peer relations and or solitary play. Okay, now again, there's a lot of this stuff is stuff that all kids do. Okay, so this is the big tend to appear. Now, the biological factors, having a mother with severe chronic schizophrenia, birth complications including oxygen deprivation and low birth weight, and poor muscle coordination. Okay, now these are very, very broad early warning signs. Okay, but again, we're still very limited in our understanding of or our ability to predict schizophrenia. Okay. All right, so again, the things to make sure you understand the biological piece. Dopamine, enlarged ventricles, okay, make sure you understand the environmental factors, the stress, the maternal flu, okay, those are the kind of things that we need to make sure you understand for schizophrenia.